6 true stories that start with an innocent plea and end with screams. There are things you hear once and forget, and then there are those sounds that stay, coiled in your memory like something waiting. This video begins with 6 real horror stories. 6 pleas for help that seemed ordinary at first. A neighbor asking to check their basement. A child begging not to sleep alone. A voice from behind a locked door whispering, "Please, just stay until the lights come back." Innocent words, familiar. But behind every request was something no one could see, and no one was supposed to. These are documented supernatural cases. True horror stories that unravel not with bloodshed, but with things vanishing. Mirrors reflecting what's no longer there, and phones ringing from numbers long disconnected. Each chapter is told from the survivor's perspective, if you can call them survivors. Their minds didn't break with screams, they broke with silence. A silence that lingered after the doors were locked, after the police left, after the candles went out and the scratching continued from behind the walls. You'll hear first-hand accounts, fragments of audio recovered from deleted voicemails, transcripts the authorities never authenticated, and recordings that should have been locked away. But now they're here, and the worst part, the horror doesn't follow rules. It doesn't punish. It doesn't seek revenge. It reveals. And once revealed, it doesn't go back into the dark. So when someone asks for help, ask yourself, is that really their voice? Because the scream usually comes after the door opens. True horror stories, real locations, first-person accounts, and not one of them ends with salvation. Only silence, and the memory of a sound that shouldn't exist. Story 1. The babysitter's request. The night Ava asked me to babysit, I didn't hesitate. We weren't close friends, but she'd always been kind. Her voice on the phone was shaky. "Just a couple hours," she said. "I'll leave the monitor on. You don't even have to go upstairs." That last part should have been the warning. It was a Victorian townhouse on Huron Street, 4 blocks from the lake. The kind of place you assume is expensive because it's falling apart in all the right ways. Creaky floorboards, stained glass that rattles in the wind, crown molding like frozen waves. Her daughter's name was June, 8 years old. I never met her. Ava said she was already asleep. "Just keep the monitor on," she repeated. "That's all." I sat in the living room with the baby monitor humming next to me. No sound at first. Then came the whispering. At first it was the usual nighttime sounds, bed springs, maybe her turning in her sleep. But then came the voice. Soft, rhythmic, words I couldn't place. It didn't sound like a child. I leaned in closer, and it stopped. Then, click. The monitor turned itself off. I tried to switch it back on. Nothing. I went to the staircase and called up. "June?" Silence. Something wasn't right. I took the steps slowly. The second floor was colder. The air smelled like rust. At the end of the hallway, the light under the door flickered. Not flashed, flickered like candlelight pretending to be a bulb. I knocked. No answer. I opened it. The room was empty, bed untouched, window locked. But on the wall above the headboard, scratched into the plaster, were the words, "Don't answer if she calls you by name." My name. I stepped back. The floor groaned behind me, but no one was there. I closed the door. That's when the sound returned, through the monitor in my pocket. Loud now, static. And then June's voice, "You're not supposed to be up here." I left the house. I didn't wait for Ava to return. I didn't even lock the door. The next morning I called her, ready to ask what the hell had happened. The number was disconnected. I went back to the house. The windows were covered. The mailbox was stuffed with old envelopes. I knocked. A man opened the door, confused, said he'd lived there for over 3 years. No one named Ava, he told me. No child either. I checked public records. The house had been vacant until 2 weeks ago, and there was no birth certificate for any child named June in the county. I kept the baby monitor. That was my mistake, because sometimes, late at night, it turns itself on, and the same voice whispers the same phrase. Just a couple hours. But that's not the worst of it. Last week I unplugged it, took out the batteries, and at 3:07 a.m. it still turned on. And this time, she called me by my name. Not the one I told Ava, the one no one alive knows anymore. Story 2. The light in the observatory. I was hired by the New Hampshire Institute of Atmospheric Science to monitor nocturnal light activity. They needed a technician to run the overnight shift at the Langridge Observatory, a place so old, most students thought it had been shut down decades ago. The building sits on the edge of Bartlett Forest. One road in, no signal, no other structures for 12 miles. The observatory dome creaks like a ribcage when the wind moves wrong, and the main telescope, model XK-Phi-7, was one of only 3 in existence, not because it was rare, because it wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The first month was uneventful: readings, logs, maintenance. At 2 in the morning on September 5th, the screen that displays thermal signatures in the upper stratosphere lit up completely red. That shouldn't happen. There were no storms, no solar flares. And then the telescope rotated, on its own, slowly, precisely. It locked on a set of coordinates that, to this day, no one will confirm is valid. Right ascension, 0 hours, 13 minutes, 41 seconds. Declination, negative 99 degrees. That's not a valid point in space. There's nothing there. There can't be. The monitor turned black, then static, then a pattern. It looked like a language, symmetric, recursive. I recorded it. Exactly 53 seconds later, the power shut down. Not tripped, not surged, shut down, as if remotely killed. But I was the only one there. I ran diagnostics. Everything was fried, except one hard drive, which somehow retained a compressed video file. I played it. It was a wide-angle interior shot of the dome. No sound, no timestamp. In the lower corner, something moved. A shape. At first, it looked like a shadow cast by the telescope, but the telescope didn't move. The shadow did. Frame by frame, it unfolded, not in steps, but folds, as if it were inside out, and its edges didn't match the walls or the floor. They didn't align with anything in the room. They slid over geometry like magnets, refusing to connect. I paused the video, and for a second, I wasn't looking at the screen anymore. I was back in the dome. The red lights were back, and something was whispering from inside the telescope housing. It sounded like my own voice calling to me, but slowed down. Dragged through water, a language built from memory and metal. I blacked out, woke up in the hallway, shoes missing, palms scraped. The building smelled like ozone and something sweet, like rotting syrup. I called my supervisor. No answer. The next day, I returned to Boston. The research facility denied ever placing me there. They said the Langridge Observatory was shut down in 1997 after a failed experiment in spectral interpretation. I showed them the video. They said it was corrupted AI-generated noise. I sent the file to 3 astrophysicists. All 3 are dead. 1 overdosed. 1 hanged himself using coaxial cable. The 3rd went missing. Only thing left in his office was a post-it note on his monitor. It pointed inward. 2 months ago, I tried watching the video again. My laptop melted from the inside out. There was no fire, no spark, just in collapse. I haven't slept in 4 nights. Every time I close my eyes, I see the red spectrum. I hear my name, not spoken, but measured, like a signal bouncing off the walls of the known universe. And last night, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside, a burned disc, labeled only with the coordinates. I threw it away, but it came back, not mailed, not delivered, just there. And this time the label says, "Look again. The light isn't coming from space. It's coming from us." Story 3. The thing that answered the prayer circle. I was 15 when it happened. Old enough to know fear wasn't just a feeling, it was an invitation. Our youth group was led by Miss Helen, kind, intense, the kind of person who said God was always listening, even when you were screaming. Once a month, she held a prayer circle in the church basement. That February, there were 7 of us, sitting cross-legged in a circle of salt. a candle for each of us, and a leather-bound Bible passed hand to hand like a relic. That night, Helen asked us to write down a single prayer request. Fold the paper, hold it tight, and wait in silence. Mine was simple. Please bring my brother home safe. He had gone missing the week before. Last seen walking through Black Hollow Road on a dare. No one found a body. Just his shoes, still warm, still laced. The basement went quiet, the kind of quiet that presses in. I remember the flickering candles, the damp stone walls, the smell of copper. And then, the noise. It didn't come from the room. It came from inside our mouths. A low humming, like feedback from a radio not tuned to anything human. Our lips were closed, but the sound kept rising, like the silence had become aware of itself. One of the girls, Mallory, started shaking, not violently, subtly, like she was being tuned to a different frequency. Her eyes rolled back. She whispered something in a language none of us recognized. The salt circle turned black beneath her. Helen grabbed the Bible, started screaming prayers, not reading them, screaming them, but every word came out backwards, not in reverse, just wrong, like they'd been rewritten by something else. Then the candles blew out, all of them, at once. The basement door slammed shut, and for a full minute, no one moved. That's when we heard it, not a voice, a sound, like metal scraping inside wood. Then, request received. We all ran. No one said a word. Helen didn't follow. The next Sunday, the church was closed. The police said Helen had suffered a breakdown, was found in the basement whispering Latin phrases into a phone that hadn't worked in years. I thought it was over, until the letter came. No stamp, no envelope, just a folded piece of paper on my pillow. It said, "Your brother's been returned, but he's not yours anymore." That night I heard knocking on the window, not loud, deliberate. I opened the curtain. He was there, or something wearing his face. He didn't blink, didn't speak, just held out a hand. In it, a burned piece of paper. I recognized my handwriting, my prayer request, but the words had changed. Now it read, "I give him back to you." And behind him, in the trees, something moved, taller than the branches, bending the dark around it. I shut the curtain, locked the window, but he didn't leave. And every night since, he gets closer. Yesterday, I found the Bible in my mailbox. Pages soaked in something black, but intact. On the last page, one line had been carved into the leather. "You can't take it back. It's already listening again." Story 4. The apartment where the walls remember. I moved into apartment 3B on May 14th. I know the date because I found the lease contract later, though I don't remember signing it. The building was on Oakenfield Drive. Quiet. Too quiet. It had the sterile, low-rent feel of something built to be forgotten. Beige carpets, hollow doors, light fixtures that buzzed just above the threshold of perception. The landlord never showed up. I got the keys from a lockbox on the stairwell. Inside, everything looked staged, like someone had tried to recreate a lived-in space. Magazines on the table, dated but unread. Dishes in the sink, dusty. Curtains drawn tight with no cords attached. On the third night, I noticed the hallway had gotten longer. Not metaphorically, physically. I measured it, twice. In the morning, it was 13 feet. By evening, 17. The lights at the end dimmed into amber. And then the hum began. It started in the ceiling, a low, constant thrum like a tuning fork buried in concrete. I tried recording it. Every time I played it back, I heard a voice layered beneath the tone. My voice, saying things I had no memory of. I stopped sleeping. One night I woke up in the kitchen. I hadn't walked there. I was just there. All the cabinet doors were open. Inside, pages taped to the wood, handwritten entries, my handwriting, diary entries I had no memory of writing. Don't trust the mirror. You're still in the first week. They don't let you leave. They let you forget. I ran to the bathroom mirror. It was blank, not cracked, not shattered, blank like a polished stone. I touched it. The surface felt warm. It pulsed. I tried to call someone. No signal, not even Wi-Fi. I unplugged the router and found a note inside the casing. She still thinks it's her home. That night, the apartment reset. All my clothes were gone, food restocked, photos rearranged. I opened a closet I swore was empty. Inside, a man's suit, my size, my name embroidered in the jacket. But I never wore suits. I'm a barista, or I was. I started to forget things. Names, birthdays, where I worked, even the smell of coffee. But the apartment remembered everything. It would correct me, out loud, from the walls. I'd say something aloud like, "I need to get to work," and a voice from the vent would murmur, "You haven't worked since the incident." What incident? I tore through the kitchen drawers, found a Polaroid under the cutlery tray. It showed me standing in front of the apartment, smiling, holding keys, shaking hands with someone whose face had been scratched out. On the back, final occupant, 3B. I tried to leave. The door opened into the hallway, but it wasn't the same hallway. It looped, turned in on itself, led me back to the kitchen no matter which direction I took. I smashed a window. Behind the glass, drywall. I pulled it apart. More notes stuffed inside. She's getting closer. Don't speak your name. The longer you stay, the more real she becomes. That's when I saw her, in the reflection of the oven door, standing behind me. Tall, pale, eyes like static. Wearing the same clothes I arrived in. She didn't move, didn't blink, just tilted her head, as if studying something half-finished. I turned around. No one there. I haven't seen the sun in days, but the clocks all say it's morning. And this morning, I found a new note, folded under the bed. It reads, "You moved in on May 14th. It's still May 14th. It's always been May 14th. And now the walls whisper in her voice. They tell me things I almost remember, like the name I had before I signed the lease." Story 5. The audio file that wasn't recorded. I used to clean up audio for a living, noise reduction, EQ balance, forensic restoration, mostly for legal cases, sometimes music. But in early April, I got an anonymous request through my private work email. Subject, urgent, please listen. No name, no signature, just a download link. The file was labeled, field report, 2.3 is mixdown final.wave. Size, 44.1 mm, length, 12 minutes, 37 seconds. I downloaded it onto an isolated laptop, an old Dell I kept offline for sensitive jobs. As soon as I hit play, I knew this wasn't a field report. It started with static, then footsteps on gravel. A man breathing hard, whispering into what sounded like a body mic. "We're live. It's coming through. God help us." Then silence, but not empty silence. The waveform kept fluctuating. Beneath the absence was a tone, sub-bass, around 213 hertz, fluctuating slightly. That's a range known to cause nausea, anxiety, even hallucinations in high enough amplitude. Then, at timestamp 0309, a second voice, not over the first, inside it. A woman's voice, layered deep, speaking backwards. Not reversed audio, just syntax that bent wrong. I isolated the channel, ran it through a pattern mapper. The software flagged the waveform with an error I'd never seen. Speech detected, language unknown, resonant profile non-human. I paused the file. My laptop fans kicked into overdrive. The battery drained from 91 to 3% in seconds. The screen flickered, then showed a frame I hadn't played. A single image, low res, grayscale, a person sitting in a chair, blurred face, hands tied with something that looked like cassette tape. Behind them, a chalkboard with 6 words scrawled in red. "We didn't record this. We transmitted." Then the laptop shut down, permanently. Wouldn't charge, wouldn't boot. The hard drive was hot to the touch. I ran diagnostics from another machine. The file was gone. But a ghost version remained. No extension, no creation date, no metadata. I transferred the ghost file to an external SSD, plugged it into a soundboard for manual routing. The moment the device powered on, every speaker in my apartment let out a low moan. It didn't sound like distortion. It sounded like someone humming a melody they'd never heard before. I scrubbed the file manually. At timestamp 0644, my own name appeared, not spoken. Written, embedded in the waveform as spectral data. I only noticed it when I zoomed in to frame-by-frame view. There, carved into the decibels, my name listens. My name opens. I cut the power, called a friend in digital forensics, sent them a screenshot. They told me to stop immediately, said they'd seen something similar on a classified project from Romania, field recordings from exorcisms that never finished, recordings that would complete themselves when played. He said, "If you listen to the whole thing, you're the vessel." I haven't tried to play it again, but the SSD hums now, faintly, without power. It pulses in sync with my breathing when I sleep near it. 3 nights ago, I dreamt of the man in the chair. He opened his mouth. No scream, just that same tone, 213 hertz. Yesterday, I found an envelope under my door. No address, no stamp. Inside, a cassette tape. Written in black marker, "Don't play it, you already did." And on the back, "You're not restoring the file. You're finishing it." Story 6. The funeral. That no one left. My grandmother's funeral was held in the village of St. Anselm's Hollow, a town so small it never appeared on maps newer than 1994. She'd left when she was 19, never spoke of her childhood, and forbade us from visiting. The letter arrived a week after she passed, yellowed paper, no return address. Inside, a formal invitation sealed in wax, not to a funeral, to a homecoming. My mother didn't want to go, but I did. Something about the language in the invitation felt unfinished, like it had been written to me long before I was born. The town was nestled between ridges of black pine, its buildings crooked like they'd shifted over time to face something unseen. The church stood at the center, stone cracked, roof sagging, the steeple bent forward like it was bowing to something underground. There were no cars, no cell signal, no birds. We arrived at dusk. Inside the church, candles burned low. No electric lights, no priest, no casket, just rows of townsfolk dressed in black, heads bowed, hands clasped. My mother froze. "I don't recognize anyone." I said, "Neither do I." At the front, a man stepped onto the altar. He looked ancient, not old, ancient like he had been buried and unburied. He didn't speak. He simply pointed to a pew. We obeyed. The silence grew thicker. Then the organ began. It didn't sound like music. It sounded like breathing, amplified, staggered. The congregation stood all at once. Each took one step forward, then another, slow, perfectly synchronized. I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't rise above a whisper. My mother squeezed my hand, hard. Her nails were blue. Her skin, sallow, like she hadn't eaten in weeks. "We need to go," I said. She didn't respond, just stared at the altar. Then came the voice, from the rafters, not overhead. Inside the wood, it said, "The body remembers." Everyone sat down again. I looked back, doors closed, no hinges, no exit. The man on the altar lit a small black candle. Its flame flickered violet. He began to read, not scripture, not prayer, a list of names, each one followed by a phrase in a language I'd never heard. But my body responded, my vision blurred, my hands trembled, and when he read my grandmother's name, the congregation chanted, "She has returned through the hollow." Then they all turned to look at me. My name was next. I stood up without meaning to. My body moved like it was remembering choreography I'd never learned. My mother smiled at me, except her eyes were empty, glassy, like they'd been rinsed clean. They made me walk to the altar. They placed a candle in my hand. The wax dripped, cold, not hot. The flame hissed like it was exhaling. The man whispered in my ear, "This is the last time, until the next." I passed out. When I woke up, I was in my car. Parked outside an abandoned church, overgrown, caved in, no candles, no altar, no one. The town didn't exist anymore. According to state records, St. Anselm's Hollow was destroyed in a fire in 1963. No survivors. I asked my mother about it. She looked confused. "You never had a grandmother," she said. That night I found the wax-stained invitation on my desk. Dated 22 years in the future, same name, same ritual. Except now, my name is on the sender line. And beneath it, one sentence etched in fading ink. "The funeral never ends, it just waits."